Anglogold Ashanti's third quarter adjusted headline earnings per share dropped 6% to 61 US cents. That's as gold production came in lower than expected at 1 million ounces. The group's quarterly dividend has been halved to 50 South African cents. Earlier, one of my colleagues spoke to CEO Mark Kutifani.
The fact that we cut expenditures, we're looking at projects, looking at operations, that's not a good thing for South Africa, but at the end of the day it's the right thing in terms of making sure we as a company continue to have a strong base. We're committed to our major growth projects, so the future still looks very strong, but in the short term we've got to take the appropriate measures to protect the business, protect the balance sheet, and ultimately to protect people's jobs, given that that investment is required to continue to support those jobs.
Anglogold Ashanti ended the day 11% higher to over 288 Rand. Ashraf, if you look at, I always love speaking to Mark Kutifani. He's so enthusiastic and one really believes his story, even though he's the head of a gold mining company which has exposure to South Africa.
Well, you know, as you heard him saying, you know, the new projects are outside of South Africa. There's nothing new in South Africa, and that's the first thing to take note of. You know, South African gold mines per se are effectively going backwards. You've got no new gold operations here. Anglogold Ashanti is probably the best play if you want to play gold in Africa.
Yeah, it's interesting how the market saw the Harmony results versus the Anglogold results, because how Harmony actually did quite well. And reported better than expected earnings, and I think that gave some encouragement to the market, but that count has been hit very hard. I think the indictment is that even the South African operators are losing confidence in South Africa as a place to do business, and that is an indictment, because South Africa still has the reserves in the ground. We're going to end up with those reserves sterilised, worth nothing.
And this applies to mining companies, not just in the gold sector, but generally, if I think of BHP Billiton, for instance, closing down and moving out. Exactly.
South Africa is not seen as a place to do business. Mozambique, yes. Our neighbour, that was Marxist statist not a long while ago, and that in fact is the lesson. They're actually removing it, we're imposing it, and the business moves accordingly. And the lessons are experienced but not learnt.
Ashraf, on a more technical note, Bevan Jones, who spoke to us a few minutes ago on the commodity sector, as he disappeared off in the distance in the studio, he made the very important point that we were talking about commodity prices, say, rising for a particular commodity. That doesn't always translate through to a company price. If you can explain what those linkages are.
Well, effectively, what it is especially Anglogold being a good example, where 3 years ago the entire gold production was hedged 6 months out, and we had a strong run up in the gold price, and they missed out on that run up because they'd hedged it at far lower prices. So they unwound that hedge. It cost them more than a few million Rand, but ultimately they now sit with a zero hedge position because of where the gold price is and what their production costs are. Just to go to Chris's point that he made earlier, you know, the marginal gold mines are producing maybe at 1,400, 1,500 Rand an ounce. That's just your production costs, and then you've got to deduct your, you know, your amortizations, etc., exploration that you're also amortizing. But on a cash basis, they're all still making good money. The reality is that for private investors, that could be an opportunity, because you no longer have those high exploration costs that's been paid for. So you're coming in and you're buying effectively at a lower price, but that is more private equity transaction than buying into a listed, just because those listeds are carrying high amortization costs, and they have to write that through on an accounting basis.